day 7. Today we're going to be looking at one of my favourite things to do at Christmas, and that is a flat lay with fairy lights. Now I have got my board here and I've used a slightly grey, light grey board to do this flat lay on, because I think it's just, I would often use a white one, but I like this grey because it is just a bit slightly muted and quite good for a festive scene. So the way I do this is that I put my fairy lights down first and then I create the flat lay on top. You might want to do it differently. You might want to create your flat lay and then put your fairy lights around. But I quite like to have the fairy lights as a layer of my background, so I put them on first. The next thing I do is that I turn my fairy lights on, and then I take a little test shot of how the fairy lights are looking on my background. So I'm really happy with that, and now I can start my flat lay. If I hadn't been happy with the way that the fairy lights were looking, then I've got a chance to change what I'm doing, because I really want the fairy lights to be a feature of this flat lay. They're not sort of an additional thing that I'm thinking of at the end, and I think that is why I put them down first, and I definitely make sure the fairy lights are working on the background and that they're working with the light, and I'm happy with my fairy lights, and then I can create my flat lay. So I've got my fairy lights there. I can either keep them on or turn them off depending on how I'm feeling. I am going to keep them on because they make me feel so very happy. And these ones are little stars. The stars don't always come out. Sometimes it just looks like a light, but often you can see that they are a little star in the image. So I do really like to use these stars. So the first thing I'm going to do in my flat lay is I'm going to pick up the thing that is most important to me about the flat lay, so my hero of the flat lay. Sometimes I don't have a hero, I have a colour scheme, and everything is equally important. But for this one, I have got this lovely wish cookie that I want to, it's like a cookie lollipop, and that is definitely going to be in the flat lay. So some things I might put down and I might take them off again if they don't quite work, but this little thing definitely has to be in there because that is what this particular flat lay is all about. So I'm going to put it there. You can choose where you put your hero. Your hero might go in the middle or it might go in one of the thirds, and I'm going to have it just over here like that. And then I'm going to add things around it. Now I'm going to put some of these stars down, and I'm going to just scatter these randomly. I can always move them if when I look through my lens in a minute something isn't quite looking right, or I've got a gap. And then I'm going to also include this little pot of stars in the image, I think. That might be something that I move or take out, but I think I want to keep it in. And then I'm going to add my little baubles. Now my colour scheme for the second year in a row is this pink and copper because I love it so much. Although my daughter did ask me yesterday if we can have copper and blue next year, so maybe I can go with that for next year, but I love this copper and pink, so I am having it for a second year, and I like to bring my colour scheme into my flat lays. I'm going to pop that one over there, if it will stay. So I'm just going to have a little look at how things are looking, and I want it to be a square flat lay, this one, for Instagram. Okay, it's looking good so far. What I do is when I'm creating flat lays like this, when there's quite a lot of details in it, I do check with my phone regularly so that I'm not creating a big mess, because it can be very easy when you're doing a flat lay to add and add and add, and you get so excited and you want to add everything that you have brought to the table, and sometimes you don't need to add everything. In fact, I could take one right now with what I have done so far, and I would be really happy with that as it is. But I'm just going to add a little bit more, because why not? At Christmas you can go big, I think. As well as going simple, you might be going for a simple one. I've just got a few little flowers. These are just chrysanthemum flowers, and I've just cut them off at the bottom. These are so pretty. They're like a pink with a sort of just such a little tinge of, I want to say brown, but it's not really brown, but they are very, very pretty, like a muted pink, I guess. And I think that they're really lovely for Christmas. So just put that there. I have got some berries, but I think that's going to go over the top, so I'm not going to add the berries to this picture. But I have got a few little stars that I'm just going to add into the background. These are the scatter stars that I mentioned in my pop box video a few days ago. Oh. And I love using these. They make, these will be all over my house, all over my studio floor for the next few weeks. But I love them so much. And who is going to complain about some stars on the floor at Christmas time? So there we go. I've got those in my background. Now, when I'm creating a flat lay like this, I want to, when I crop it, I want it to look like it goes on and on and on, and it's not a tight, neat thing. And that's where the things like the stars can be so useful, because they can come on the edges and really help you to have that, make that look of it going on, and that you have captured a tiny bit of the table of a much bigger thing. I guess that's what I mean. Right, so that's lots of sprinkling of stars. Got totally carried away. So when I take my picture, what I want to do is I'm going to go onto the square, because I want this to be a square. And it's actually, I'm taking this picture about 2:15, 2:20 maybe in the afternoon in the UK, and the light is really dropping. I have about maybe another half an hour of photo time. So because it is already quite dark, I might not have to do anything to this image. But if it was lighter in the day, then I would just bring down the exposure and just make it a bit darker. But and I really like that look actually, I have brought it down a bit. So you want it to look like, or you might want it to look like it's the evening. I just need to move that up there a little bit. You might want it to look like the evening, or you might want it to look a bit brighter but with the fairy lights. So you can choose to either basically dim the lights or brighten them depending on the look that you want, but you don't want to be shooting fairy lights in the dark. You want to be making it look like it's dark by bringing down your exposure. And if you have got an Android phone, you can do that with your exposure compensation and just bring it down to the negative. And if you've got the iPhone, you just tap it to get the sunshine and then pull it down to make it darker. And that is how to make a flat lay with fairy lights. I will take a few more flat lays with fairy lights to share with you, and I would absolutely love to see yours in the Facebook group soon.